Suyu stands atop a towering tree, his figure concealed by the dense foliage, quietly observing the battle taking place not far away. He decides to wait here for an opportunity, hoping to strike when both sides are weakened and gain an advantage. If it were others fighting, Suyu might not intervene and simply leave. However, the person he is facing is Zhang Shaoyuan, the genius of the Zhang family. Suyu wouldn't leave so easily. After all, there is deep-seated enmity between them. Not far away, Zhang Shaoyuan wields a sharp sword and engages in a fierce battle with the Jingangsing. Gongjinxing, a powerful ape, although he has reached the 9th stage of ki condensation. He still dares not face the Jingangsing, Gongjinxing, head-on. After all, the Jingangsing, Gongjinxing, is too powerful. You can slash at it 10 times, and it might not even flinch. But one punch from it could leave you severely injured or even dead on the spot. Wang Fenglin's steel blade is no less formidable, taking advantage of the moment when the Jingangsing, Gongjinxing, attacks Zhang Shaoyuan. He unleashes a powerful aura. The steel blade gleams with a sharp light, and he swings it forcefully at the Jingangsho, Gongjinxing. Bang! A metallic collision sound rings out. The Jingangsing, Gongjinxing, only reveals a white mark on its body, not even breaking the skin, as Wang Fenglin marvels at the Jingangsing, Gongjinxing's defense. Its massive figure looms over him, and a powerful punch is already coming his way. Wang Fenglin dares not be the least bit negligent and quickly dodges, unwilling to meet it head-on. At this moment, Zhang Shaoyuan seizes the opportunity and draws this sword in an instant, in a flash. A beam of sword light bursts forth, carrying a powerful aura as it slashes toward the Jingangsing, Gongjinxing. Draw sword technique. From a distance, Suyu's eyes flash with insight, as if he has suddenly gained a profound understanding. The sword light slices through, and the Jingangsing, Gongjinxing, instantly feels pain. Its eyes turning blood red, fixating intensely on Zhang Shaoyuan. A sword wound appears on its leg, and a trickle of blood flows out. The next moment, a powerful punch is aimed at Zhang Shaoyuan. Zhang Shaoyuan, clearly not letting his guard down, swiftly channels his internal energy, and his legs retreat rapidly, creating several illusions in the air. Swift shadow step. Suyu looks at Zhang Shaoyuan with a hint of surprise, thinking to himself, "It seems that this genius of the Zhang family has already mastered the highest martial techniques of the Zhang family to perfection. Thus, watching this battle is quite beneficial for me." Previously, Suyu had never seen Zhang Shaoyuan fight. For one, there was no opportunity. Secondly, once the core disciples of the Zhang family reach the 8th stage of ki condensation, they no longer need the protection of hunters. Zhang Shaoyuan, now at the 9th stage of ki condensation, naturally doesn't need the protection of hunters. After all, the hunter's cultivation might not even be as high as his. When Wang Fenglin sees the Jingangsing, Gongjinxing, shift its target, he wields his steel blade and launches an attack. For a moment, his internal energy flows into the steel blade, emitting a powerful aura. Wang Fenglin leaps up suddenly, and the steel blade swings down with a roar. Void slash. Boom! This strike leaves a bloody wound on the Jingangsing, Gongjinxing. Blood drips from its body to the ground. Roar! The Jingangsing, Gongjinxing, roars, pounding its chest with its fists, emitting a beastly aura, as if declaring its dominance. Its blood-red eyes lock onto Wang Fenglin. and it launches an attack. At this moment, both Zhang Shaoyuan and Wang Fenglin understand that only by using martial techniques can they injure the Jingang Gongjinxing, otherwise, they can't even break through its defense. Seeing the shift in attention, Zhang Shaoyuan's lips curl into a smile, knowing it's his turn to attack. He grips the hilt of his sword, quietly gathering energy, and then unleashes it suddenly. Whoosh! The sword is drawn. A powerful aura envelops the entire sword, carrying a massive force as it slashes over. However, just as it's about to succeed, the Gongjinxing suddenly turns, and its massive fist comes down. This sudden change catches everyone off guard, even Suyu, who has been watching, is surprised, not expecting the Gongjinxing to be so smart and use a feint. In a panic, Zhang Shaoyuan must stop his attack, or he will be smashed into a pulp. Zhang Shaoyuan reacts quickly, instantly retracting his sword and retreating, trying to escape the attack range of the Gongjinxing. However, although he dodges the attack, he still suffers the aftermath. The residual force sends him flying, a mouthful of blood spurting into the air, and he crashes heavily to the ground, unable to stand up. Void slash. At this moment, a roar rings out. Wang Fenglin raises his steel blade high, his internal energy pouring out, forming a massive steel blade in the air. After the roar, he slashes it toward the Gongjinxing's head. Thud! Blood splatters. The Gongjinxing's head is split in two, and blood gushes out like a fountain. Boom! The massive body of the Gongjinxing falls straight to the ground, creating a large pit and stirring up a cloud of dust. Wang Fenglin, meanwhile, crouches heavily. Breathing heavily, sweat dripping to the ground, his face pale. The previous strike depleted all his internal energy, and if he hadn't killed it, they would likely have died here. Fortunately, it was successful. After a brief rest, Wang Fenglin stands up and walks toward Zhang Shaoyuan. Zhang Shaoyuan, who has been lying on the ground after being struck, is severely injured and has not stood up. Seeing the situation, Suyu didn't rush to act but quietly hid in the dark, waiting to see if there was a chance to strike the final blow against Zhang Shaoyuan, to make the Zhang family lose this prodigy. Wang Fenglin walked toward Zhang Shaoyuan and said calmly, "Where is the spirit-gathering herb you mentioned?" Zhang Shaoyuan was clearly seriously injured, his face pale, and every movement caused intense pain in his chest. Just the simple act of standing up made him break out in a cold sweat. He pointed weakly toward a dark cave not far away and said, "It's in that cave." Upon hearing this, a faint smile appeared on Wang Fenglin's pale face. Initially, he had only wanted to enter the 10,000 Beast Mountain range for some training, but he encountered Zhang Shaoyuan battling a gorilla. At first, he had simply wanted to watch the show from the sidelines. However, Zhang Shaoyuan claimed that the gorilla was guarding to spirit-gathering herbs, and if they worked together to kill it, they could each have one, splitting them equally. After some thought, Wang Fenglin couldn't resist the temptation of the spirit-gathering herb and decided to join forces with Zhang Shaoyuan. The spirit-gathering herb, when consumed by a martial artist, can gather the surrounding spiritual energy into the danshan, thus accelerating cultivation. Upon hearing the name of the spirit-gathering herb, Suyu muttered to himself, No wonder they joined forces. It was for a common interest. It was well known that the two major families of Canglan City were bitter enemies, often clashing, and would never cooperate unless for a common interest. Seeing that Zhang Shaoyuan was struggling to walk, Wang Fenglin went toward the cave alone. Zhang Shaoyuan followed behind with great difficulty. Suyu, upon seeing this, began to move through the ancient trees, heading stealthily toward the cave. The next moment, Suyu saw Zhang Shaoyuan walking briskly to catch up with Wang Fenglin, showing no signs of his injuries. His right hand slowly gripped the hilt of his sword, ready to attack. Wang Fenglin, having seen Zhang Shaoyuan's pitiful state, had let his guard down, his mind entirely focused on the spirit-gathering herb. Suyu was somewhat shocked, not expecting Zhang Shaoyuan's injuries to be feigned. Indeed, the Zhang family had no good people, all of them traitors and betrayers. Whoosh! The sword was drawn, and the sword energy surged. Ah! Wang Fenglin didn't have time to react and was struck on the shoulder. Blood and flesh were clearly visible, and his clothes were soaked in blood. Wang Fenglin stumbled, nearly falling, and supported himself on a rock, glaring at Zhang Shaoyuan with fury in his eyes. If it weren't for Wang Fenglin's earlier use of spiritual energy, Zhang Shaoyuan would have become a cold, lifeless corpse by now. You ambushed me. Zhang Shaoyuan didn't seem to care, a sly smile on his face. Wang Fenglin, you are too naive. There's only one spirit-gathering herb in this cave. Moreover, with your injuries, you won't be able to recover in 2 days. At that time, I will be the first in the Canglan City competition. Then I can join the Crimson Sky Sect and become a disciple of the Crimson Sky Sect. Hey! Gah! A mouthful of blood spewed from Zhang Shaoyuan's mouth, and he stumbled, nearly falling to the ground. Clearly, Zhang Shaoyuan was indeed injured, but not seriously. At this moment, Wang Fenglin's anger had reached its peak, and he looked at Zhang Shaoyuan with hatred. Scum! You animal! If you have the ability, kill me. Zhang Shaoyuan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, still smiling slyly, and said calmly, If I weren't afraid of a war between our families, you would have died by my sword just now. Wang Fenglin tried to mobilize his spiritual energy to resist, but it was in vain. His spiritual energy had been completely depleted just moments ago, making it impossible to launch an attack. Suyu stood on the towering ancient tree, watching the scene with interest, and said, People with wolf hearts and dog lungs, the Zhang family is full of them. Such people shouldn't be allowed to live. With that, he leaped down to the ground, his spiritual energy flowing, his hand gripping the hilt of his sword, ready to draw it at any moment. The sudden appearance of Suyu startled both of them, and they turned their gazes toward him. But before they could see his face clearly, Suyu was already in front of them. The next moment, the sword was drawn. Whoosh! The sharp energy sliced through the air. Zhang Shaoyuan didn't have time to react and was struck by the sword, flying through the air and crashing into a rock before falling to the ground. Spit! A mouthful of blood was spat out, and his eyes widened as he looked at the newcomer, feeling as if struck by lightning. Suyu, how can you be here? Your realm has recovered. Zhang Shaoyuan, being a former beast hunter of the Zhang family, naturally recognized Suyu. Suyu didn't speak, sword in hand, advancing step by step. Your Zhang family is a group of ungrateful, treacherous people. You don't deserve to live in this world. No. 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 Zhang Shaoyuan felt the waves of killing intent emanating from Suyu, and his fear reached its peak. He had heard of Suyu's unfair experiences, but hadn't taken them seriously. He never imagined that someone expelled from the family would return. Suyu, however, never showed mercy to his enemies, and the sword flashed. Head and body separated. This time, Suyu didn't prolong the torture but killed him outright. He didn't want to waste too much time on him. A few steps forward, he took the storage ring from Zhang Shaoyuan's hand and then focused on Wang Fenglin. Ha ha ha! Good kill! Very good! Wang Fenglin, seeing Zhang Shaoyuan's miserable state, felt his anger instantly subside, and he burst out laughing. Suyu remained cold and expressionless, saying calmly, I hope you will keep the fact that I killed Zhang Shaoyuan a secret and not spread it. Wang Fenglin's face showed a bold expression. Of course, I would never do such an ungrateful thing. Zhang Shaoyuan's death was highly beneficial to Wang Fenglin. With his biggest rival dead, there was no one left to challenge him in the Canglan City youth competition, and he was determined to be the first. Suyu nodded faintly, turned, and entered the cave, examining the surroundings. In the corner, he found a small herb about the length of a finger. The herb was surrounded by spiritual energy, emitting a faint glow. This must be the spirit-gathering herb. Suyu walked forward and plucked the spirit-gathering herb, placing it in his storage ring. After succeeding, he left the cave and headed straight toward the gorilla's corpse. With a thought, the gorilla's body was stored in his ring, and Suyu disappeared into the 10,000 Beast Mountain range,